Headlines. Let's go live right now to Ottawa. We're hearing from the union representing Canada Post workers after they got an announcement from Canada Post that there will be or could be a lockout as of Friday. Let's go live.
Take questions. So as you're no doubt aware by now, Canada Post has issued 72-hour lockout notice. They've told us that they intend to end our collective agreements and are preparing to shut down the post office. We've been sounding the alarm about this for some time. It has been patently obvious by their behavior at the table and in public that their intention was to provoke a labor dispute, and this is exactly what they've done. And let's be clear, what has gone on at the last 7 months at the bargaining table could not be described as negotiations. Canada Post came to the table. They refused to discuss anything we brought up for months and months, said no, no, no. We're not even talking about our proposals. We raised proposals about pay equity for women. We raised proposals about expanding services to the public, and were met with a complete refusal to even discuss these issues. Then they dropped their first offer on us a week before the deadline and said that's their final offer. And now they're preparing to lock us out. We'd like to say to our members across the country, we're asking them to stand strong. Do not be fooled. Do not be provoked. We fully expect management will be trying to provoke us on the work floors everywhere. We're asking our members to be strong and proud, to stick together, but not to take the bait. Our goal is to continue the service to the public. We are going to do everything in our power to make sure that the postal system still runs. It's been our goal from the outset to get a negotiated collective agreement without a labor dispute. That remains our goal. To that end, we have no plans of issuing strike notice, despite the lockout notice given by Canada Post. Our goal is to continue the service. We know that we're dealing with an unscrupulous employer. They have no problem lying to the public, and they have been untruthful about the real situation, financial situation, facing Canada Post for years. We know that we're dealing with bully bosses, and they're going to try to provoke our members. We're asking our members to stick together, to stand strong, not to be provoked. Pay equity is the biggest issue in this dispute. Our rural and suburban mail carriers unit, which is predominantly made up of women, are paid 28% less than their male counterparts in the urban operations bargaining unit for doing the exact same work, delivering mail. What we are saying is that this injustice has to end. It's 2016. We know the government has made a priority of pay equity. President Obama was just here speaking in the Parliament about pay equity to thunderous applause. And it seems that Canada Post management still hasn't got that message. The sooner they get it through their heads that they have to treat women equally, the sooner we can have a collective agreement. But from our view, we've seen absolutely no difference in the way this round of negotiations have gone than we saw under the Conservatives before. Canada Post has refused to negotiate in good faith, and the Conservatives still seem to be running the post office. Mr. Harper's appointees are in place, and they haven't changed their direction whatsoever. We're extremely disappointed by the behavior of management at the bargaining table, and that they're now preparing to shut down the post office, to lock out their workers, and to deny this service to Canadians.
Bonjour. Post Canada donc a émis
Post
un avis
Canada
de 72
has
heures
emitted a 72-hour warning announcing a lockout starting Friday.
On doit vous le dire.
We have to
Post
say,
Canada vous lance des chiffres.
Canada Post is throwing numbers, throwing $1 billion.
On a demandé à deux
We
reprises.
asked twice
à Post Canada de nous
to Canada Post to explain to us how they were coming to this number. We didn't get an answer.
Mais $1 milliard,
But $1 billion,
ce chiffre-là existe.
this number
Ce
exists.
chiffre-là
This
est ce
number
que Post Canada a remis au
is
gouvernement
what
au cours
Canada
des 20
Post
dernières
gave
années,
back
au-delà d'1
to
milliard de
the
dollars.
government in the last 20 years.
7 mois de négociation.
7 months of negotiations.
On ne peut pas appeler ça de la négociation. Post Canada,
You can
tout au long
call
de la
that
négociation, a
negotiations.
refusé d'adresser
Throughout this
les demandes,
negotiations,
les
Canada
problématiques
Post has
que vivent nos membres
refused
sur
to
le plan du
address the
travail.
problems, the demands
À
that
une
we've
semaine
shown.
de
1 week
l'échéance,
before
Post
the
Canada
deadline,
nous dépose
Canada
des offres
Post
globales
has
en nous
presented
indiquant
global
que
offers,
l'offre
saying this was a final offer.
Ce n'est pas
This
une
is not a
négociation
negotiation
de bonne foi.
with good faith.
Post Canada va tenter,
Canada Post will
au cours
try
des jours qui s'en viennent,
in the coming
de
days
provoquer nos membres,
to provoke our
de
members,
provoquer sur les planchers
to
de
provoke
travail.
them on the workplace.
On demande à nos membres
We're asking our
de
members
rester forts,
to
et
stay
fortes,
strong,
de ne pas réagir
not to
à la
react
provocation.
to provocation.
Notre but
Our
est
goal
de continuer
is to
de
continue
servir la
to
population.
serve the population.
Et dans ce contexte,
And in this
le syndicat
context,
n'émettra pas
the union will
de
not
préavis de 72
emit
heures de
a
grève.
72-hour strike advice.
Le but du syndicat,
The goal of the
et des
union
membres,
and members
c'est de négocier une
is to
convention
negotiate
collective
a bargaining
qui adresse des grandes problématiques.
agreement that addresses the great
L'équité
problems.
est la clé.
Pay equity is
Dans
the
cette
key
négociation
in this
aussi.
negotiation.
Plusieurs de nos membres,
Many of our members,
principalement des femmes,
mostly women,
la société refuse
the
de les
society
payer au même
refuses
titre que
to
l'unité
pay them at
urbaine
the
qui est
same
principalement d'hommes.
ratio as the
28%
urban members, which are mainly
de moins
men. 28% less than male counterparts.
inacceptable
It's
en
unacceptable in
Et Post
2016.
Canada
And
va
Canada
devoir
Post
adresser cette
will
situation.
have to address this
Mais c'est
situation.
aussi
But it's
une
also
question
a
de santé
question
et sécurité.
of
pour
health
l'ensemble de
and
nos
security for
Mais aussi
the
une
ensemble
question
of our
d'offrir un
members,
service à la population
to offer a service
digne
to
de
the
ce nom.
population
Un
that is
service
worth
du 21e siècle.
what it should be in the 21st century.
Ce qu'on voit à la
What
table de
we see
négociation,
at the
c'est
bargaining
encore
table
les
is still
conservateurs
the conservatives
qui sont
that
dans
are
le siège du conducteur.
in the driver's seat.
C'est encore l'ère
It's once again
de
the
Stephen
era
Harper.
of Stephen
Les
Harper.
personnes qu'il a nommées
The people
sont
he
encore
named
là.
are
Et
still there.
l'approche
And the
n'est
approach
pas une approche
is not the
qui
approach
se veut une approche pour régler les
that
problématiques
is an
et
approach
négocier
to
de bonne
solve
foi,
problems
mais bien
and
d'imposer
negotiate in good
leur
faith, but to
pouvoir
impose the power
sur l'ensemble des travailleurs et travailleuses
on
du poste.
the ensemble of the members
On est là
of
pour
Canada
négocier.
Post. We are there
Est-ce qu'on
to
dit à Post
negotiate,
Canada?
and what we're saying to Canada
Est-ce que vous
Post,
l'êtes?
are you?
Merci.
Thank you.
We'll now take questions.
Est-ce que vous diriez que les négociations sont rompues, sont
You would say that negotiations are in a dead end?
Ce qu'on dit à Post Canada,
What we're saying to Canada
c'est qu'on
Post
est prêt à
is that
continuer
we
la
are ready
négociation.
to continue
La
negotiating.
réponse qu'on a lorsqu'on
The
les
answer we're
rencontre,
getting when we're meeting
et
them
ça fait
is,
déjà pas
and it's
longtemps,
been
avant-hier,
not too
la
long,
réponse qu'on
the
a,
day
c'est
before
ce
yesterday,
qu'ils ont sur la
the
table,
answer they gave us
c'est la
is that
meilleure
what's on the table is the
Mais
best
cette
offer.
offre-là,
But this offer,
ce qu'elle fait,
what
dans un
it
contexte
does,
où le gouvernement
in a
regarde
context where the
présentement
government
d'ajouter des services qui vont
is
rapporter
looking
des
to
nouveaux
add
revenus, l'offre de Post
new
Canada,
revenues
c'est de
with new
fermer
services,
nos
while
près
Canada
500
Post is to
bureaux
shut down
corporatifs qui ont
almost
qui ont fait service à la
500
population.
corporate
1200
offices,
emplois à plein temps qui
1,200
pourraient offrir de nouveaux
full-time
services à la
jobs
population.
that could be
syndicat
giving
est
new
prêt à retourner
services
à la
to the
table.
population.
Et
The
on va
union
y
is ready
retourner.
to go back to the table.
Il va
We'll go
falloir
back
que
to the
Post
table,
Canada
but we
veuille négocier de
ask
bonne foi.
Canada Post to negotiate in good faith.
pas mal garanties pour avoir un arrêt de travail vendredi.
So it looks like there's going to be
C'est ce qui
a
nous semble.
stoppage.
Ce qui nous semble, selon l'avis de
Yes,
Post Canada, c'est que
seems
Post Canada
that
pourrait décréter un
Canada
lockout
Post could
dès vendredi.
ask for a lockout as Friday.
Canada Post say these rural postal workers should be paid less, and how do you respond to their rationale?
The only explanation they've given us is that it's a market advantage. You would have to ask them for a rationale.
Qu'est-ce que vous attendez du gouvernement Trudeau si jamais
What are you
lockout qui est décrété?
waiting from Trudeau's government if the lockout is in effect Friday?
Mais est-ce que ça veut dire qu'il n'y aura pas de loi spéciale? Est-ce que c'est ce que vous sentez de la part du gouvernement fédéral?
On ne sait pas quelle va être la réaction
We
du
do
gouvernement
not know
fédéral,
what will be
mais
the
en tant
reaction of the
qu'actionnaire
federal
unique
government
de Post Canada, le
as
véritable propriétaire, c'est le gouvernement
loan-
fédéral, c'est la population du Canada. et du
it's the
Québec.
population, it's
Donc, on
the
s'attend
population of
à ce
Quebec
que
and
le
Canada
gouvernement
that is
parle aux
being
dirigeants de
frauded
Post
here.
Canada
So
et
we
leur donne un mandat
would
clair
like
de s'asseoir s'asseoir à la
the
table de
government to
négociation et de négocier
ask
de bonne
Canada Post to negotiate in good faith.
Sentez-vous qu'il était facile, le gouvernement, qui est pas
Do you feel that the government is staying on the sidelines? Well, it's tough to say because the government has not implied itself directly. Well, not as we saw, but we're waiting for the government to give a mandate.
Signals from the Liberal government, how they, you anticipate them to respond to this lockout?
The only signal that we've had was a call from the Minister of Labour a number of days ago asking us to remain at the table. That's exactly what we're doing. Our goal is to get a negotiated collective agreement without a labour dispute. That's been our goal from the outset. To that end, we are not issuing strike notice. We're remaining at the table. We'll be there 7 days a week to try and hammer out a deal. And in fact, we asked for an extension of the cooling off period by 2 weeks to allow both sides time to come together without taking any of these actions. Unfortunately, management has refused that request and they've issued lockout notice.
You say Canada Post isn't being truthful about the costs of your demands. They say it's about $1 billion over the lifetime. How much do you think your demands will cost the corporation in terms of pay equity?
Well, unfortunately, we've been trying to work with them to get a proper costing of what these are, but they refuse to give us that information. We have asked twice since they started quoting this billion-dollar figure. I remember it wasn't too long ago when they were saying the corporation would be losing $1 billion a year. That never materialized. Canada Post is profitable. They've reported a first quarter profit of $44 million this year, so they're on track to do far better than their $100 million profit last year. We'd like to see their costing for it. We think you deserve to see that costing as well. But there are a lot of issues that we have been raising that don't actually cost anything. And these are basic issues of health and safety, of staffing. We've been refused these opportunities to even discuss these issues.
Can you not do your own cost estimates at all as to what you know the business and you are the workers working that business, so you wouldn't be able to independently do your own cost estimate?
Well, there's an awful lot of information that goes into this, and we need access to the actual information from Canada Post to really put this together. We dispute that figure. We assume that much of what they're talking about is the cost of pay equity. And I'm sorry, if Canada Post says that they can't afford to pay women equally, that isn't a good enough argument for us. Canada Post needs to follow the law and pay women equally. They have admitted to us at the bargaining table that they have never done any analysis to see that if they're in line with federal legislation around pay equity, and in fact, they have no plans to do so.
Can you tell me more about the rural workforce? What percentage are women, and why are there more women?
It's about 70% women in a bargaining unit of about 8,000 members. They're paid 28% less for doing the exact same work.
And why so many women in that particular area?
You would have to ask management. They're the ones who do the hiring.
Could you explain to us? You're challenging the number of $1 billion. Do you have an approximate of
Je vais préciser
demand?
que c'est pas une question d'argent.
I'll precise it's not a question of money.
C'est pas une question d'argent.
Between us, it's not a question of money.
La question
Mike says
d'équité,
it.
si ça
The
coûte
question of
l'argent,
equity,
ben, il y a un
if it
prix à
costs
l'équité
money,
et à la justice.
well, there's a price
Mais au
to
niveau des-
equity and
prenons
justice.
les
But
offres salariales.
when it comes
Nous,
to
on
salary
demande
offers,
3%, 2,
we're
2
asking
et 2.
3%.
Parce que Canada offre
They're
un montant
asking-
forfaitaire de 1 250
They're
la première
offering-
année. Ça, c'est 2,2%.
All right, thank you. If you are joining us just now, we've been listening to the Union for Canada Post. They're talking about lockout notice that they've received from Canada Post, 72-hour notice, which means on Friday we could see a situation where we have a lockout. So again, we've been listening to the Union. Let's bring in the Canada Post spokesperson, John Hamilton. He's been listening in as well from our Ottawa bureau. John, thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Marilla.
Look, this is a union that is saying Canada Post wanted this all the time, a lockout. How do you respond?
Well, I think a lot of your viewers were probably shaking their heads saying that doesn't seem to make